Whoa, I didn't even know that you were such a Elvis fan, Moby. You're his number one fan? Okay. Dear Tim and Moby, who was Elvis and why is he so famous? From Marianne. Well, Elvis Presley was an enormously popular musician and actor and the icon of the 20th century. He is considered one of the first rock and roll artists. Well, he wasn't the first. Musicians like Bill Haley and Big Joe Turner recorded what some people consider rock and roll songs shortly before Elvis became popular. But before Elvis came along, popular music was dominated by jazz and crooners singing the love songs. He may not invent the rock and roll, but Elvis made it popular and defined its look and attitude. Nobody had seen anyone perform the music the way Elvis did. But he had some pretty shocking moves for that time. He had a real stage presence and a unique sound. Elvis was one of the pioneers of rockabilly, a combination of country and the blues that was the earliest form of rock and roll. Well, he listened to a lot of country, blues, and gospel music when he was young, which he blended into a unique music style. Elvis was born in Tupelo, Mississippi on January 8, 1935 during the Great Depression. His family didn't even a whole lot of money, but when he was 11 years old, he got a guitar for his own birthday that his mom and dad gave him. And at the age of 13, Elvis and his parents moved to Memphis, Tennessee, which is he first began listening to blues and gospel music. He hung around blues musicians as he grew older and picking up their style and technique. And after he graduated from high school, Elvis became a truck driver. Yeah, but it's picture Elvis driving a truck because it's hard to picture him. But everybody has to start somewhere. And anyway, he wasn't a truck driver for how long? In 1953, he stopped in a new recording studio called the Sun Records to make a recording for his beautiful mother's birthday. A year later, the owner of the Sun Records, Sam Phillips, asked Elvis to come in as a stand-in for a missing singer. When they had stopped recording, Phipps called and he heard Elvis playing a blues song called That's Alright, and it was a sound that Mr. Phillips had been looking for. That song became Elvis' first single, and 2 days later it was on the radio and an instant hit. Elvis was only 19 years old at the time, and he got a new manager called Colonel Tom Parker, who helped make him famous pretty quickly. Well, no, he wasn't a real colonel, but that was just a nickname. Parker made sure Elvis' face was on everywhere, from television to movies, and even on household products like plates. His performances on Ed Sullivan and other variety shows were big hits, and he followed up his early successes with any more hit records. Songs like Hound Dog, Blue Sesame Shoes, and Jailhouse Record earned Elvis the nickname of the King of Rock and Roll, or just the King. After serving in the army for a couple of years, Elvis stopped doing live performances and concentrated on making movies. His popular decline as new boarders from England took over the rock scene. And in the late 60s, Elvis returned to his first love, performing a series of concerts on television across the United States. Toward his career in the 1970s, he recorded some of the gospels and he won 3 Grammys. People to think of that fame got to Elvis as he reached to his late 30s. He became repulsive and avoiding the spotlight in his Memphis stay Graceland. And also during this time, Elvis also became dependent on drugs. He performed his last concert in June of 1977. 2 months later, he passed away from a heart attack that was likely caused by chronic drug use. His fame only grew after his death in 1977. Graceland is a musician of a non-traditional landmark that that hundreds of thousands of people visit every year. From around the world, flock earned their respects to the men who reshaped their culture, and even Moby.